Bad Days, me paying tribute to the 60s and 70s cop movies. It's about the Claire Goose's character. She is undercover and she comes home one day and she finds her daughter brutally murdered, and then she decides to kill everyone that she knows in her job to try and find out who actually pulled the trigger. And then we have two cops played by Antia Febu and Donna Eyre that's assigned to bring her home. It's all set in one day and everybody has a really bad day.
I think when I first read the script, I was really drawn to the character, and primarily that's really why I take certain roles, is because I'm always drawn by either the character or the people that are involved or a director I want to work with. And with this, for me, firstly, it was definitely the character. It was very different to anything I'd done before, and I really felt it would give me an opportunity to be seen in a different light. That was sort of the first reason why I was interested in it and got in touch with Ian about it. And then it sort of developed from there, and I think also there were a lot of aspects to it, certainly the action, and I was really interested in doing all the fighting, and because it's not really something you get to do every day, run around Soho covered in blood with a gun. So for me, it was really something different that appealed to me.
What was interesting about the script, I actually think it flowed really well, and I remember I was reading 3 or 4 scripts that week, and this was the one that I was most engaged with. Then I think that the thing that, you know, sealed the deal, as it were, was when I met Ian, David Diaz, the director, and Anthony Afebu, who plays Darius. I think when I met them, we had a coffee, and I think there was just something really raw and real about both of them. And I thought if that kind of grit filters through into the project, for me, it was really appealing. And I thought they were great, and I thought there was just something really alive about the project. And it was quite nice that everybody come together, everybody gave up their time to do something that normally wouldn't really get the chance to get made.
I got involved with Bad Day because I knew Gina, and we grew up together, and she thought it would be a brilliant opportunity for me to kind of break myself into the acting world, because she knew that was something else I was really passionate about doing. And she saw an opportunity for me and a little door to open, and asked me if I was interested. So I said yes, of course, and then I went down and I screen tested like everybody else and auditioned for the parts.
I got involved with Bad Day because I'd worked with George, and he suggested, recommended, stroke, twisted my arm, stroke, absolutely beat me up into doing it. And got a call from Ian, and I got forced into it, and that was it.
Ian contacted me probably 3 or 4 months before he was due to start filming, with the usual kind of phone call. Dave, Ian Diaz, how are you doing? Yeah, good, good. We're making a movie. We got no money, not a single penny. We need you for 6 weeks. How are you fixed? Yeah, go on, why not? So that's pretty much how it went.
I got involved with Bad Day probably quite uniquely compared to other people, in the sense that I was in Cannes with a film I'd done, and I bumped into, or rather met, Ian Diaz. Years passed, and he gave me a call out of the blue and said, I'm putting together a little project. Would you like to have a look at The Pot of Trig? And I said, well, yes, I would.
I met Ian about 4 years ago through my stepdaughter Olivia, who ended up getting the part of Lynn Ryan in Bad Day. Ian was a bit of a fan of Doctor Who. I used to write music for Doctor Who. A few years later, obviously, Bad Day was being talked about being made. Ian got in touch and said, would I like to do the music? And would Olivia like to play this part of Lynn? And we both said yes, and basically that's how we got involved.
Hello, hello.
Turn that thing off.
I got involved with the film because I'd worked with Ian on a short film before Bad Day, and he'd remembered me, and we kind of kept in contact, and he rang up one day and said, would I like to be a part of it? And I said yes.
Ian came to me one day with an explosive idea. He said, hey, we want to make this movie, and it's all going to be handheld, and it's going to be a cop movie, and it's a homage to the 60s and 70s genre of cop movies.
I knew Ian from many years ago when we did a film called The Killing Zone, which we shot in 16mm. must be a good 8 or 10 years ago, and we've sort of kept in touch since then, and I've worked on a lot of his other projects, both as a cameraman and also doing a bit of additional writing and script polishing. Bad Day came out of a conversation we had a couple of years ago, where I was thinking, basically, how cheaply could you make a film, by necessity, of course, and how to make it look different. And we came up with this idea of doing something like Narc, which is a film we'd just seen in those days, and it was basically a lot of handheld work, keep it very natural looking, try not to play with the lighting too much, because that always costs more money. And it kind of had its genesis from that sort of lunchtime discussion.
I got involved in Bad Day in a roundabout way. My girlfriend was the production manager on the film, and she'd come home every day tired with a script which had a lot of green screen in it. And I kept asking her how she would ever get this all done, and she didn't know. So one day, I just turned up to one of the meetings. Ian had no idea who I was until I said, I'm going to do all your green screens for you, at which point he was very, very happy. The most obvious ones are all of the car shots. So we ended up going for a style of back projection, homage to the old films, which made it a little bit simpler. There were over 250 shots like that, and ordinarily each shot would take about a week to do, but I had 3 weeks in order to do all of them.
Working with Ian's actually quite good, and the fact that he's my friend makes things easier in terms of addressing certain issues, as opposed to approaching them on a professional level. You know, you get more of a clear answer out of him, and we can debate things a lot easier than I would normally with another director. Plus, he's got a great deal of confidence in us, which is good. It makes life a lot easier, I must admit. But it does have its restrictions and drawbacks.